The Ku Klux Klan took shape during the Reconstruction era, tormenting African Americans and using violence to sway the minds of Southern Republicans. This version of the Klan, often referred to as the First Klan, had a short-lived reign primarily in the South, for it soon died out.
The Ku Klux Klan was reborn in 1905 with the publication of Thomas Dixon's The Klansman, which had painted the Klan as a group of freedom fighters representing the white man. A film by David Ward Griffith based upon Dixon's novel would hit the screen in 1915, The Birth of a Nation. The film would popularize the Klan and its ideals, giving it nationwide credibility, though the film was exaggerated.
The new Klan got off to a slow start in its effort to promote the ideals that the first Klan had embodied: Americanism, white supremacy, and Protestantism. But as World War I began, the Klan became more active from a political and social perspective. The then small group of men who resided mostly in Alabama and Georgia would harass those who evaded the draft as well as aliens.
Poor recruitment efforts hinted at imminent failure of the Klan, but the Southern Publicity Association, led by Edward Young Clark and Elizabeth Tyler, would rescue the organization. They financed recruitment, which played a key role in the Klan's growth.
Recruiters not only emphasized their intolerance for certain races and religions, they also talked about improved law enforcement and ending political corruption.
The ideals the Klan embodied appealed to many men's organizations throughout the South, especially amongst the wealthy. Tens of thousands of men throughout all the southern states joined the Klan. Violence in such regions ensued, but the Klan members were difficult to convict due to the fact that so many Klansmen were part of the courts and police departments.
Such violence was talked about in the press, and the exposure of the Klan soon led the government to consider taking legal action against the group. However, they were soon exonerated of all charges, and recruitment shockingly picked up.
The recruitment was no longer constrained to the South by 1922, for recruiters had made their way north, preaching that white Protestantism needed to be kept as a staple of America. The Birth of a Nation had also had a transcendent effect across the country, since it had painted an enhanced and romanticized image of the KKK.
The KKK had become a mass movement with 5 million new male members and hundreds of thousands of women joining the group. The North had gained 500,000 members in New York and Pennsylvania alone, and the Midwest had increasing members as well.
Critics of the KKK spoke out against the group, deeming them uneducated and assuming they all lived in run-down southern villages. The reality of the matter was that the hooded order was taking over large cities, and many were very well off. Aside from all the racism, lying, and political sabotage of KKK, were respectable, law-abiding citizens.
The Klan would have significant influence, however, and soon enough the KKK began to become prominent in American politics as both a lobbyist group and by using intimidation to promote puppet politicians.
In 1924, Hiram Evans, a dentist who hailed from Dallas, Texas, and formerly was the Clavern president of the Dallas Klan, was selected by top Klan officials to become the new Imperial Wizard.
Evans hoped to turn the Klan into a powerful political machine, akin to the size and relevance of Boss Tweed and Tammany Hall in New York decades earlier. Evans would eventually watch his hopes turn into reality, and Klan influence was at the forefront of politics in the 1920s at all government levels.
The Klan successfully swooped into politics as champions of ordinary working citizens who wished to reinvigorate the nation with the traditional values of white Protestantism.
The Klan supported a variety of policies, many of them aimed at improving local communities. They supported public education and services like police and fire forces. One goal of the Klan, which was one of their most supported ideals, was ironically the end of government corruption. However, the Klan soon found many of the candidates they supported to be equally distrustful as the politicians who preceded them. Most notably, though, the Klan backed traditional Protestant values, and their overarching agenda was geared toward the dominance of white Protestants. To support this goal, the Klan augmented their other political ideals with a base in continued segregation, stricter law enforcement, especially regarding prohibition, and the defense of traditional social values.
The KKK's influence in politics began to subside later in the 1920s. Despite scores of victories in local and state elections, the Klan-backed officials were just as inept at implementing helpful legislation as their predecessors. Soon enough, the Klan's only influence on politics was through violence and intimidation of voters. At this point, the Klan went from controlling politics to becoming a political issue themselves.
D.C. Stevenson was a KKK leader in Indiana, at the time one of the states most heavily influenced by the group. In 1924, Stevenson rejoiced at the election of a number of Klan-supported Republicans into the state legislature.
In January of the next year, Stevenson was introduced to Madge Oberholzer at a banquet in Indianapolis.
On March 15, 1925, Madge received a call from Stevenson, informing the lady that Stevenson needed to talk and had sent someone to pick her up. Once at Stevenson's residence, Madge became intoxicated and was forcibly loaded onto a Chicago-bound train. In the lower berth of a drawing room on the train, Stevenson raped Madge, physically mutilating her in the process.
The next day, Madge awoke as the train stopped in Hammond, Indiana. After being brought to a hotel by Stevenson, she asked for DC to shoot her, but the Klansman declined. Madge then asked to be driven to a drugstore where she purchased bichloride of mercury and around 10 a.m. ingested a lethal dose.
17th, Madge was brought home. There she informed the roomer to call a doctor. When Dr. Kingsbury arrived, Madge revealed her account of what she endured with Stevenson. On April 2nd, Stevenson was arrested on assault and kidnapping charges.
On April 14th, Madge succumbed to her mercury poisoning and the wounds inflicted by Stevenson, and Stevenson was arrested again for the murder of Madge Oberholzer. He is later denied bail. Following the denial of bail, the KKK held its largest rally as 125,000 Klansmen marched in Washington, D.C.
On November 16, 1925, Stevenson was sentenced to life in prison after being convicted for the charge of second-degree murder.
The D.C. Stevenson case marked the demise of the Second Klan, and the group would not resurface again until the Civil Rights Movement in the 1950s. Following the Civil Rights Movement, negative public opinion forced the Klan to become a more secret organization, and the modern KKK now has minimal influence in America.